Good Friday! And welcome to another episode of
Espresso
with Aaron and Sarit. Do you like our fancy board back here? Aaron and Sarit. Today we have a very special guest, you guys. So you are in for a real treat.
A very special guest. I think possibly the most powerful mentally and physically guest that we've had yet. And we're going to be talking about all things that. You guys, today we have with us Josh Bridges, former Navy SEAL, 6 times CrossFit Games athlete, a father of 2 wild boys. Some of you guys may know him as the poster athlete for Xendurance, literally and figuratively. And speaking of Xendurance, for some of you guys who take the creatine JB is actually named after him. Josh is also a multi-passionate entrepreneur, one of the founders of Good Dudes Coffee, who's currently working on a really cool project, training for an upcoming boxing match in Jacksonville, Florida in September 2021. And today we're going to be talking about powerful habits that drive results in the gym, in your business, and at home. Josh Bridges. Welcome.
Oh, wow. You guys are too generous. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you here. And you know what? Like, the first question that we always ask everybody that we interview is, well, this show is called Espresso with Aaron and Sarit. Do you drink coffee? And I mean, like, you are an avid coffee person. So, like, I'm curious because, I mean, with you, our coffee conversation is going to be taken to a whole other level. But how did your passion for coffee start?
Oh, wow. What a question. Like anything, I try to go 100% and I go pro, right? That's like my motto, right? Whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to go pro at it. So, coffee was no different. I didn't start drinking coffee until I got into the military, and a buddy of mine was like, he drank coffee and I never drank it. I didn't drink anything other than water, beer, and orange juice. Those were like the 3 things I drank. And then, I tried to drink no caffeine. And, once I started to deploy and I just needed to stay awake at certain times where I normally would be sleeping. And so I needed the caffeine, kind of turned to coffee because of a buddy turned me on to it. And he's like, hey, we drink our coffee black. I was like, fair enough. All right, cool. I'll do it. So went hardcore, straight, just like black coffee, acquired a taste for it. And then like, once I started to like drink it for a little bit, I was like, well, I'm drinking this every day. Maybe I should drink good stuff. And so started to like dabble into like trying to find better coffee. And then I was on deployment and I was in Iraq and I was ordering coffee just to be sent over. And I didn't even know what I was doing. So I ordered unroasted coffee beans and I had them sent to Iraq, and it showed up and I'm like, well, damn, don't have any coffee. Now I have unroasted coffee beans. I didn't even know what it said, green next to the name of the beans. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Now I understand it, right? That means unroasted coffee. So I had to order a roaster and have it sent over, and I actually learned how to roast coffee in Iraq. That was like what I did. And that just kind of like, it just grew from there. And then we started this brand, Good Dudes. And then it kind of just took off from there. I'm like, well, I've always wanted to do a coffee company. And so took a shot and here we are.
Besides the fact that you guys are good dudes, which may be the obvious reason it's named that, is there another reason why it is named Good Dudes Coffee?
No, I mean, the thing about being a good dude for me is like, it doesn't even mean you have to be and this is in our most recent commercial actually, is that you don't even have to be a dude. It just means you're a good person, right? A good human being. And good dudes is just like, in the teams in the military, that's what you strove to be. You strove to be a good dude. You didn't want to be a nice guy. A nice guy is like, yeah, he's a nice guy. Like, I don't really know, so like if someone says you're a nice guy, that means they probably don't like you. So you strove to be a good dude. And so that's kind of where the name came from. And the meaning behind it a little bit. Is just, strive to be a good dude, no matter what, who you are, what you're doing, just do good things.
I call everybody dude.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like, dude doesn't mean you're a dude, like a male. It's like, you're dude.
Hey,
You're
dude.
good and a good dude.
What I really love about Good Dudes too is how patriotic everything is. Just like all the names of all the roasts, it's like it can't get more American than that. So a huge kudos to you for that. So as you can see, this is a live show. And for those of you guys watching, I'd love it if you can share with Josh, like where you represent. We're talking about like all things patriotic, but I bet that we have at least one Canadian person in the house today. So whether you're, like in the US and Canada or maybe another country, welcome to our show.
Josh, are you still in San Diego?
I am at least for a few more months. And then I am off to Colorado.
Are you moving to Colorado?
Yeah, I'm moving to Colorado. Yeah, I bought a house and it's being built, and I moved there in hopefully October. As they're as the house is being built, there's obviously going to be some delays and things like that. So
sure, everything you do for the first time take 10 times longer and be 10 times.
I'm really nervous. I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna be a big move, so it's gonna be fun. But
I don't want to hijack the interview, but I'm really curious to know why the move. I feel like we have specific questions.
Be authentic. Be authentic.
Yeah. The move is just kind of like just ever change. Tax purposes, it's gonna help. It's crazy. I'm gonna be real. It's like tax purposes help. It'll be nice to get out of California. And I've always loved the mountains. I like the mountains more than the beach. It will be hard to leave San Diego. I do love San Diego. I'm gonna have a house here still too as well. I'm gonna keep this house and rent it out, and so and do short-term rentals so that I can actually use it if I want to. So yeah, it's San Diego will be home. That I've been here for 14 years now, and so it's been a great place and I've loved it. It's just time for change and time to move on, and but I'll come back. I'll be here probably a couple times a year at least, especially the cold months.
Oh yeah. So if anybody wants to rent the one and only Josh Bridges' home.
That's all right. That garage gym's still gonna be there too.
Nice. With a garage gym, you can't beat it.
Yeah.
You can't beat it.
I love it. So, we're talking about moving forward, and I love that. But, just so that everybody can have a better context, let's go back for a little bit. And I mean, when we started this conversation, you're like, whatever I do, I want to go pro. Right. So on the topic of go pro, let's talk about competition a little bit. Like, were you always competitive, or like, what is the first memory that you have of you like becoming really competitive? What drove that?
Gosh, I remember being competitive at a very, very young age. I have an older brother, and he's literally just 13 months older than me. And so we were always competitive at everything. All we did was play sports. That's all we did. Like it was whatever sport was in season, that's what we were playing, whether it was organized or whether it was just out in the street with a bunch of friends. You don't see that nowadays, which is, I feel like that's a little strange to me, but you just don't see kids playing out in the street. Like we played basketball in the street. We played hockey in the street. We played football in the street. We played baseball in the streets, and it was just like the neighborhood kids. That's what we did. And, it was always competitive. It was competitive from, 5-6 years old. I started playing baseball pretty early, organized. And then I started wrestling in like 8th grade. But gosh, I remember sitting at the dinner table and just wanting to be the first person done eating. I remember in the classroom, always wanting to be the first person done with my test, whether I didn't care what the score was. I just wanted to be done first, so it was like always super competitive. I mean, entire life. And it's hard to let it go. I still, I don't let my kids beat me yet. Not yet.
So it sounds as if it's more something along the lines of like, it's just who you are. You were born with it. It's not like a series of experiences that kind of like develop that.
No. I definitely feel like this was something that was, I was born this way, like I was born and from the get go, from the time I can actually remember being a kid, but until today, like I want to win at everything that I'm doing. Like hate losing. Everyone hates losing. It's such a cliche thing to say. I hate losing, but everyone hates losing, but I hate it with all my heart. And so, yeah, it's just something that's inside me, and I love it. I love competing, and I love competing. I love all sports too, and not even sports stuff. I love everything that you can compete at. So it's just inside.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in relation to entrepreneurship in just a little bit, but let's move on to like your involvement of the military days.
I have this thought in my mind right now before you go to that, because I'm like imagining anybody who's doing any sport, like showing up in their gear. Like I got my shin guards on, I got my cleats, I got my everything. I can't wait to lose. Like
right.
Nobody would ever say that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I guess some people just don't care if they lose. You know what I mean? Like some people are like, it's okay. I lost. It's no big deal. Where I'm like, really? You don't care? Like I care, and I'm gonna go fix this.
Okay, I'm done.
So let's talk about your Navy SEAL experience just a little bit, and how did your competitive edge either helped you or gave you a better experience while you were in the Navy SEALs?
I think the competitive edge was also excuse me. I think that it did. Yeah, right. I know. I think that it helped definitely in the aspect of training when it came to the actual training side of being in the military. I didn't like in BUDS, which is basic underwater demolition SEAL training, which is the very first initial 6-month training period to become a SEAL. I didn't, and you start with this huge class. We started with 320 people, and we finished with like 44. And so every time someone quit, it's kind of terrible, but it was a driving factor, right? It was like, okay, like that guy quit and I didn't yet, and so like it was a motivating thing. And I think that like I'm beating these guys, right? Like in the sense of they're quitting, they're giving up before I am. And so I think that might have helped to have a factor, right? To not want to lose and quit and give up. And even though it wasn't really against these people, because these people in the long run, they're actually some of them might be your teammates and, that you go off to war with. And so you're not really rooting against them. It was just more the fact that like you didn't want to quit and give up before them, I guess, is the only way to really put it. And so that could definitely have been a driving factor. For me, I've always tried to go into things with no plan B. I think having a backup plan is always setting yourself up for failure. And so if I go into the military if I went into BUDS, my SEAL training with a backup plan, I felt like I was already giving myself an out. Right. And so I went into that training knowing this is it. This is everything. This is, I'm putting everything on the line. I'm putting all my poker chips in the table, and this is it. I don't have a backup plan. So if something goes wrong, then I'll figure it out when that happens. But it wasn't something that I wanted to have in the back of my mind. If I quit, I had something else to go to.
Right. Love that. Only plan A. I love
That's
that.
right. No plan Bs.
Plan A is plan A. Plan B is also plan A.
Right. Exactly.
So let's talk about CrossFit a little bit. And this is just an assumption, but I can only assume that you probably got introduced to CrossFit in your military days.
It was actually before. And so, it was, so the same guy, this is actually kind of a funny story. I've told it before. So some people might've heard it if they've heard any of my other.
I'll hear it again. And they're fun.
Yeah. Right. So I was a loan officer in 2003 or 4, and then up to like 2000, up until I left for the military with 2007. And so a guy that I ran across in one of the jobs one of the companies I was working for, he goes, "Hey man, I'm going to start doing this CrossFit stuff." And these are, or no, he goes, "I'm going to go be a Navy SEAL. I'm going to go try to be a Navy SEAL. I'm going to go, sign up. And then some of these guys are doing CrossFit. That's how they're training for this stuff. So would you want to give it a shot? And I had no aspirations for the military at this time. I was just kind of like out of shape. I was done with college sports. I'd kind of let myself go a little bit, get a little, thick around the waist. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And so I looked it up and I was like, first day I fell in love with CrossFit. That was January 2005. And then once I started doing the CrossFit is also when I was like, well, let me check out this Navy SEAL thing he was talking about as well. Kind of looked into that. And yeah, that's kind of how my story went. I literally I gave myself a year and a half to train to go into the military, and I used CrossFit as that tool.
Mm-hmm. So you said that, like you have plan A and plan A only, and whatever it is that you try to do, you want to go pro. So when you did CrossFit for the first time, were you like, I want to compete and I want to go to the games?
So if we know our CrossFit history, CrossFit didn't start having a sport until 2007. So I started actually using CrossFit when it was just an ideology of fitness, right? It was January 2005.
Okay.
And so, no, I didn't. When I started to do it, I was just like, this is really awesome. And but me and my buddy who were doing it together, I was like, this is like, it was fun to compete against him, right? Because me and him were doing the same workouts. And so we were challenging each other. There were no gyms I was in St. Louis, Missouri is where I was at the time. Oh, that's where I'm from. And there weren't any gyms there. And so we were doing it like at whatever gym we could go to, like Gold's Gym. And we went to WashU's like student gym. He got us in there somehow, and we'd go into the Olympic weightlifting area, and we'd set up and kind of take the whole corner over and do our CrossFit over there. And so early on, I was like, man, this is really cool. Like we could compete against each other. We would do workouts or whatever, and we'd see who won. And then right before I joined the military is when they announced that they were going to do the first CrossFit Games. And I used to log my workouts on the main site, CrossFit.com. And there was always certain people you would go look for. And one of them was OPT, which is James Fitzgerald, the guy who won the first CrossFit Games. And so him and I would always like compare our scores and stuff. And we'd actually chat through email. And when they announced that they were going to do that first CrossFit Games in 2007, he's like, oh, you're going to be able to go? And I'm like, no, man, I'm actually joining the military. And I left in March. And I think the games were in, I don't remember, like June or July that year. So I just kind of followed along throughout the years as my military training. And then I didn't get to compete until 2011 was my first year kind of lined up to where I could go and actually compete. But so it wasn't something initially I thought, but once they announced that, I was like, that's really cool. And I always like kept up with the scores, and I would go back and do the workouts that some of them would do and compare my times. And then 2011, I just had the opportunity to go and compete. So yeah.
I love it. It sounds as if whatever you did, like you always had an intention behind it. Like you were training to go to the military, and then, I mean, we're going to get to Good Dudes in just a little bit, but, before we talk more about your competitive career, let's talk about, just your experience as a Navy SEAL. What would you say is the biggest lesson that you've had from being a Navy SEAL?
Yeah, loaded good question. There's so many. I don't know. I think I think one of the biggest lessons learned, from being a Navy SEAL was adapting and overcoming, right? And so life is going to throw things at us, and things are going to change, and things are not going to go as planned. You can plan your life, you can plan your missions, you can plan your day, you can plan whatever it is. And things are going to happen that are going to disrupt those plans. And right. And if you can't adapt and overcome to those situations, no matter what it is, like whether we're talking about a workout, whether we're talking about your kid getting sick or injured or you're losing your job or whatever, if you can't adapt and overcome, then we're going to, it's going to be a hard struggle for us. Right. Because life is always changing, no matter the instance that we're talking about. And so I think that was just something big that I took away from my time in the SEALs was, no matter, that was our motto, right? Like adapt and overcome, whatever happens, get the job done. Right. And so I would say that would probably be my biggest takeaway from that.
Do you feel like there is almost like two people in the world? Like person number one is the person who like is striving to adapt and overcome, and person number two is the person who gives up when shit goes out of whack. And maybe that's why it feels as if in society right now there's this separation. Like the ones who are adapting and overcoming are going up, and the ones who are not are just kind of like falling behind. Do you think that has anything to do with that?
I mean, I think that there's definitely just going to be those types of people, right? No matter what, right? We're going to have two types of people in this world. We're going to have people who are going to strive and go on and do great things no matter what. And we're going to have people who want to be a victim, right? And have that victim mindset. And they think that they're owed things. They feel entitled and they think everything should be given to them, or they want to work just a little bit. And then they think they're owed something. Where like other people are just like, I'm going to work as hard as I can. And I'm going to get what I earn. Right. And so, yeah, I think that there are two types of mindsets out there. And, the worst thing you can have is a sense of entitlement in this world. And, no one owes you anything, not even your parents. And that's something I've always said, right? And anything that you're given, you should be thankful for. And you should go out and get whatever you want.
Love that. So now let's fast forward a little bit from your Navy SEAL career to your CrossFit career and talk about adaptations. I mean, once you get into competitive CrossFit, and you will know better than me, and obviously you, Josh, you're talking about maximizing work capacity, but also if we're talking about absolute strength. Like you're going into it with an adversity, because there are some dudes who are just like massive, like you're a monster, but some dudes are just like massive and they just have more absolute strength. So
there's like genetic advantage or disadvantage in certain. I mean, in CrossFit though, it ends up playing out evenly across the board.
Sure.
Yeah. Disadvantages for every size and all that.
Yeah, but what are some adversities that you've had to face on the competition floor, just considering, your physiology?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're always going to have workouts where either your height could play an advantage, your levers could play an advantage or disadvantage, and your weight, right? Mass moves mass. And so when it comes to 1 rep maxes, it was something that I always knew that, hey, listen, like I had to go into it with a mindset saying, I can't worry about what everyone else is getting. I have to go out and do the best that I can. And then let the chips fall how they do. And then when I have the advantage, because it's either, someone who's a little bit shorter, maybe the shorter range of motion or whatever, like I got to take advantage of those. And so CrossFit does a really good job of kind of evening the playing field out. And that's why you see some outliers like myself, or even taller guys, right? Like people who are taller girls too, who are upwards of 6 foot, 5'10", 5'11", 6'1", 6'2", right? Those guys, I mean, guys and gals have disadvantages when it comes to certain range of movements as well. So it all plays out, and you just can't focus on those one single event. And I think that's the thing that sometimes gets people into trouble, right? They focus on that one event, right? Oh, I just did really bad on the event. Well, look at Rich and Matt. They both had some. Maybe not Matt. I can't think of an event where Matt really had a terrible placement, but Rich won the games 4 times, and he had like a 30th place and 30th, like early 30s and like late 20 places in almost every CrossFit Games. So you can't focus on that. Just kind of move on and get through it. Maybe try to play. I can't think of the word that I'm trying to look for right now in my head, but try not to do as terrible as you would think, right? Like, and then focus on the next event.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was.
Yeah. No, I know.
I was like,
I'm going to try to articulate because I know what you're trying to say. Whereas you're focused on the consistency across the board, not just one singular moment or event, right? Like
Right.
in our community, a lot of people have come here, like their goals are to lose weight, to get in better shape, to feel better about themselves, to get more confidence. And, you know, so often a lot of people will come into our community because they've tried, you know, keto, they've tried, you know, Weight Watchers, they've tried all these things that for some reason or another wasn't sustainable for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, but what happens is like in this cycle is we get trapped on like, I didn't do good today. So it's not like, now I'm not going to try anymore. And there's different directions you can go in that. Whereas like CrossFit Games, I never made it to the games. But I was in the top 100 for like regionals, and our team made it and blah, blah, blah. Great. So I understand like how you like the mindset, and what we try to teach our people too is like in your mind, you can decide, okay, like this didn't play out. Things are going to happen, right? You can make a plan. And in my workouts before I go into they're like, so what's your plan? I'm like, well, I have a sort of plan.
Right.
But rarely does it always go the way I think it's going to go. You got to adjust. But it's, am I going to let something that happened that didn't go according to my plan take me down? Or am I going to focus on the best that I can do and see how consistent I can just be at getting progressively better over time? And I think that's like.
Yeah, exactly right. You're playing damage control on certain issues, and other things you're trying to like get as many points as you can. And you can focus on the highs or the lows. Really, you can't be like, oh, I just won that event, this is mine. Well, you never know what's going to come up next, right? So it's you got to deal with on both sides of the spectrum, not just the bad. You can't just focus on the bad, or you can't just focus on the good. Just focus on being the best that you can be, and adapting and overcoming when situations arise.
Let's talk a little bit about like kind of like take the audience through the moment of like when you're in the middle of a workout. Obviously things are moving really, really fast, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say something, you know, like goes not according to plan. And I mean, you know, like every second counts. Like what goes on through your head to adjust your thinking and kind of like flip the script so that you can remain focused? Can you walk us through that?
I can try. You know, for me, like when I'm in the middle of an event, I'm always doing the best when I'm not thinking at all, or I'm thinking solely on the movement that I'm doing. Just trying to be as efficient as possible. I've always felt like CrossFit, you had to be the best athletes were the guys and girls who moved the most efficient, right? Whether it was in Olympic weightlifting, or it was in gymnastics or running, it was the people who were the most efficient, because those people are expending the least amount of energy to get the job done. And that means they can typically go longer and they recover faster. So, I just always focused on what I was doing in the moment. And if something happened, I tripped up, I didn't let it bog me down. I was like, okay, that's not a big deal, right? And just kind of kept moving forward, and only thinking about not getting too caught up in like, oh, I have 100 reps, or, you know, whatever it was, whatever the workout was. I'm only doing this rep right here, and then I'm going to do the next rep, and then I'm going to do the next rep, and then I'm going to do the next rep. And I slowly just chip away at whatever it is I'm doing. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, it's almost over. Like, here we are. I'm almost at the end. And so not getting caught up on what you have to do and only thinking about being present and being in the moment of that workout is typically where I try to put my mind, and that helps a lot. And just being efficient as possible.
Yeah. Was it always natural for you to control your mind, or were there any certain practices that you had to put into place in order to do that? Because I mean, let's say if you're doing a workout like Karen, for example, right? Like 150 reps of the same thing, you know, and like with someone like you are obviously like emptying the tank on that. But it's like when pain starts to creep in, like what strategy do you put in place in order to keep going?
Yeah. So for things like that, I had a couple different things that I would try to get my mind to. One was like, what I was just kind of talking about was the one more rep, right? You can always do one more rep. You can always do one more. And then slowly you're going to chip away at that goal. And all of a sudden, you know, if you need to take a break, you take a break. But then when you pick it back up, you're like, okay, I'm going to do 5 reps, and then I'm going to do 5 more, and then I'm going to do 5 more, and then I'm going to do 3 more. And you almost walk down to like, okay, just one more again, one more until I need to take a break. So for that's kind of like where I would always try to just kind of put my mind into just doing one more rep. I got one more until I can't get one more. And then another one was whatever it is that you're doing, no matter what, it's going to come to an end, right? It's going to be over, and no one can stop time and no one can make you quit. Those are two things that time is going to end. So how you finish that workout, it's going to be on you, right? It's going to come to an end though. So whatever amount of pain you're in, it's going to end. You just have to get through it. And no one can make you quit except for yourself. So those were 2 things. That's another 2 things that, the military really helped out with a lot. That was something instructors used to tell us, to kind of help keep us motivated in times where it got really crappy. And I took that on into CrossFit as well. So, no matter how much pain, how bad a workout sucks, it's going to end, and no one can make you quit but you. So you're the one that's going to have to deal with it at the end if you do decide to give up on yourself in that workout or quit whatever it is that you're doing.
I would always reset myself. And like when I start to feel like I'm looking forward, like, oh, this is how much I have to do, I would reset myself and I'd be like, this is the beginning of the workout. This is the beginning of the workout. Like no matter where I am in the workout, like I'm just getting started. We actually have breaks that say just getting warmed up, because it's just a reminder, like no matter what wins you've had ever, no matter where you're at in the workout, no matter how tired you are, if you just think in your mind, like I'm just starting from the beginning right now, I'm fresh. This is the beginning. I'm fresh.
Right. Yeah. How am I tired? I like that a lot. I think that's good.
That. I'm good. Just getting started.
I love it. I like that a lot.
I love what you just shared though. Like, for those of you guys who are listening live, like those are such powerful, not just like the reason why fitness is great is because it's nothing but a life principle. Like if you apply everything else in your life that same way, right? Like, 1 rep, could be an analogy for like one bad day, or one day where you feel like you're pushing the bar, or 1 extra hour that you have to spend on whatever it is that you're doing, like, just doing 1 more and then telling yourself to do it again to help you stay focused on something that's so small, but yet pushes you beyond your limits, really like helps you grow. And, the fact that, like everything in life is temporary. The reason why so many people get overwhelmed and end up not taking action is because they think about the entire mountain instead of just, that next step. But it's like, dude, if you just focused on that next step and you put everything that you could into it, imagine how much further you're going to reach. So, man.
The other thought that I had too is like what you were saying, the pain, whatever pain you're experiencing in life, in a workout and whatever, it will come to an end. But if you quit, you have to live with that decision that you made to quit.
Yeah.
So you have a choice. You push through it knowing like you can focus on the end, or you can focus on, I'm going to quit. But then when it does end, now you have to live with that. I quit.
Yep. It's not a good thing. It's not fun. It's not a fun thing to live with. So that was always my mind in the military and in CrossFit, right? It was like, yeah, some of this stuff really sucks, but it's better than quitting. It's better than going home and, having to deal with that for the rest of my life. Be like, what if I didn't quit? What would have happened?
Yeah. Most people regret the things that they didn't do by the end of the day. Of course. Yeah. Rather than the things that they did. So good. Thank you so much for sharing that wisdom. This is like golden nuggets.
You guys, I want to know from the audience if you can drop it in the chat. Like, what are some of the takeaways that are resonating with you that you're getting there, that are beneficial for you, that are feeling like they're really helpful for where you're at right now?
Yeah.
Drop those in the comments.
And then, let's transition to like other areas of life, like, aside from just being an athlete, obviously, like you're a dad, and your two sons are absolutely adorable.
Thank you.
And, you know, like you're also running a business at the same time. And, you know, I just want to give some context to our audience, because I mean, you know, like in our community, like some people are like way like advanced with regards to their like fitness and wellness journey. Some of them are just getting started. So we're talking about people from all walks of life with regards to their own transformation. But, you know, a very common limiting belief that, you know, is just heard way too often is that, you know, parents think that because they are a parent, like their body is limited from looking a certain way or from feeling a certain way. And I mean, you're a dad, like for one, your body is like bomb.com, but for you, it's not just about how you look. It's like, it's how you perform, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Everybody's going to go on Instagram right now. What does Josh's body look like?
Look, you can look at the Xendurance posters.
Hey, he looks like a superhero. No big deal.
Yeah, like, you know, you have the body of a superhero. Like, that's just a fact. But like, you know, so like I want to hear from you, like, you know, to all of the parents who are listening out there who have ever thought, oh, you know, like, yeah, it would be a lot simpler if I wasn't a parent. Like,
I thought you were going to say they don't have time.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. There you go.
Well, either way, I just want to hear from you.
There's always excuses, right? There's always certain things, but I think you're right. I think that some people probably do think that, you know, like it's almost like a social norm, right? Like, oh, I got the dad bod or whatever, you know, like and don't get me wrong, like some people they don't have the time. Maybe they, you know, they work really long hours and they just can't make it their sole focus, and that's fine, but at least do something, right? I mean, I've had friends that I look at that once they become parents, they let themselves go so much, and you're like, man, like I don't even care about how I look. For me, it was always the look, the aesthetics of it, the way it looked was just you know, it just came with it. It wasn't something that I focused on. I did not care what I looked like, as long as I was functional, as long as my body did what I needed it to do. The way it looked was just something that came from the workouts. But it wasn't something I cared about. It was not a priority whatsoever. I just wanted to be functional. And so for parents, it's, you know, like you don't have to fit into those social norms, right? Like you can show your kids that what it can be like to be a parent and be healthy, right? Like my mom always worked out, like growing up, you know, she always went and did something for herself. And whether it was 10 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour, right? Like, you know, she took time for herself. So that she was healthy and so that she's still around. And that's my goal now too, is I don't care what I look like. I just want to be healthy and be around for my kids so that when I get older, right, I can still play sports with them. And then when they have kids, you know, I can still be the grandpa who's, you know, out there playing sports with the grandkids. And so that's the goal. It's not to look a certain way. It's to feel good and to be able to move, because I remember when I wasn't being very healthy with myself and I wasn't eating right and taking care of myself and exercising. And I felt awful. I felt slow and sluggish. And I was in my 20s when I did this. It's like, it's just terrible. Like now I'm in my late 30s and I feel amazing. And yeah, CrossFit's definitely beat me down a little bit, but that was the nature of the beast. And that was something I knew was going to happen, right? I mean, anytime you do a professional sport, typically it's going to be, you're going to overtrain or do something, right? And hurt something. But yeah, like go out there and show your kids what's capable. That's what I try to do now, right? Lead by example and not just by telling them.
Yeah, love that. And I'd love it if we can take us through kind of like, you know, some powerful habits that you practice nowadays. I mean, of course, you're not currently like competing for the games, but I feel like sometimes a lot of people think that, you know, like for them to lose weight, they need to start like training like a pro athlete. But what they don't realize is that the goals of a pro athlete are very like specific in a certain way. And for the person who's just trying to get in better shape or who's just trying to be honestly like fit as fuck, or lose some weight. Like, no, like it's completely different from how you're living. But, like, can you talk a little bit about, that misconception that I feel like is not often talked about in this industry?
Yeah, I agree with you completely, wholeheartedly, right? Being a professional athlete in anything it's sport specific, right? No matter what it is. And our sport is fitness. And so as a professional athlete, you train a certain way. The day-to-day person who just wants to be fit, you can just use CrossFit and do one, maybe two workouts a day that definitely fitted in with inside a 30 to 45 or an hour window. And that is going to help you out drastically, right? It's going to change the way you look. It's going to change the way you feel. It's going to change your energy levels. It's going to change your mood. And it doesn't have to be this perfect constructed program that people think it has to be. That's actually something that I've had to deal with now, is actually not being in competition mindset. I go into the gym and I'm like, oh wait, it's not like regimented. I don't know, like, this is what I need to train, and this is what I need to train, this is what I need to train. So I kind of get almost like I don't know what to do. Where then I've switched my mindset. I've started to think it's progress, not perfection, right? I'm not looking for something perfect right now. I just need to progress. And so whatever that is, and right. So just go out in the gym and just do something. Right. And so, I just go out and I'll bike, and I just make up a quick workout, and then I'll hit, a couple different muscle groups, with strength stuff. And so, yeah, it's just changing that mindset. Not everything's going to be perfect. Not everything has to be this well thought out plan for fitness. Right. CrossFit's ideology is constantly varied functional movements done at high intensity. It works. I believe in it wholeheartedly. And that's what I used to train to be in the military. I wasn't doing it. When I was training to go to BUD/S, I wasn't on anything specific other than I did CrossFit and I ran and I swam, because I knew that I was going to have to run and swim. Other than that, it was just functional movements, constantly varied, done at high intensities. So yeah, don't seek perfection, just seek progress. And I think that will go a long way.
Amen. Love that. I love that. You're speaking our language, because one of the things that we always talk about in our programs is progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about progress, and I'm like, if you push yourself to a point where you're uncomfortable, right? You are progressing.
Yes.
In any moment where you're having to, there's a threshold that and because it's mental. If you're pushing through some kind of threshold, you're going to get better on the back end of that, because you've pushed. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's a bike, if it's a swim, if it's a run, if it's a lift, if you're pushing yourself, and you can lay your head on your pillow at night and say, I did my best today. I did everything I could. You're getting better. It didn't matter what kind of thing it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the end, it's also perfection isn't really obtainable, right? Will you ever be perfect? Maybe you could be, but
what is perfect though?
Exactly. And yeah, right. Like, what's perfect? I don't know. I don't think there, and then if you're seeking that perfection, you're always going to be constantly let down by yourself, right? Because you're probably never going to get it. And where you should be proud of yourself sometimes. And that's something that I've had to change my mindset with, because it's huge. I've always been the hardest person on myself. And so if I didn't get exactly what I wanted, I didn't even take the time to be acknowledge, oh, you should be proud of yourself. At least you're pushing forward. And something that I've had to, I've adjusted my mindset as well, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. You're progressing, you're getting better, and you should be proud. You're working hard. So that's something that people can take for sure.
It's a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
Being hard on yourself.
Yeah.
You can work to your advantage, because that's how you push yourself.
Right.
But then you have to understand, it's like a light switch. You have to understand, when do I need the lights on? When do I need the lights off? Right? And the more familiar you are with yourself, when do I need to be hard on myself? When is it right? When is it appropriate?
Mm-hmm.
That is going to help me, is going to serve me? And when am I being so hard that it's almost destructive?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Point of diminishing returns, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about habits, filling in the gaps between what people think that, in order for you to achieve a physique like yours versus what it actually looks like, post CrossFit career. If you could pick 3 to 5 what you'd call keystone habits that you're like, okay, this is what I would recommend to somebody who wants to look great, feel great, maximize their efficiency in life? What would those be?
Oh man, that's tough. For me, it's just staying disciplined, right? Discipline's huge. Some of the best terms I've ever heard is discipline equals freedom. Because, being disciplined in the things that you need to do so that you can have the freedom to do the other things that you want to do, or even having the freedom, the freedom to live, right? Like if you're disciplined in your fitness and your health and your nutrition, then your health is going to be free, right? You don't have to worry about disease and, chronic inflammation and swelling and diabetes and all these other things, right? You can actually, you have the freedom because you put the work in and you stay disciplined in your fitness and your nutrition. So that's, one thing that's huge. Again, focusing not on being perfect and progressing. Just staying the course with that is huge. Also living, not almost like an 85, 15, 80, 20 on your nutrition, right? Don't beat yourself up if you do have pizza or a hamburger or a burrito or whatever every once in a while. Just don't make it 80, 20, right? 80% of the time you're eating great. 20% of the time you slip up, it's okay. It's not going to cause you to fail. It's not going to cause you to like gain 100 pounds because you ate a burger one night, right? And if you're eating right the other 80% of the time. So don't get hung up on those little slip ups. And if that's even what you want to call it, you don't have to call it a slip up. You deserve it. Every once in a while, you deserve a hamburger. I love them. I love hamburgers. I love burritos. I love pizza. I love milkshakes. You just can't let it get out of control. And so again, it all goes back to discipline and holding yourself accountable.
The danger is in the perspective, because if you're expecting perfection, then that 20% you're talking about, we expect it to be like 5 or 0. So then if something slips in there, it is a slip up, and then it's like, oh, I suck. And
and exactly. Don't get caught up on that. Don't beat yourself up because because you allowed yourself one little thing. Hey, this is your reward. That's your, I've worked hard this week. I'm going to have this hamburger today. I'm going to have this milkshake. I'm going to have this pizza and be okay with it and don't think that is ruining everything that you've strived to get to. So I think those are some of the,
I have a question in regards to that though. Mm-hmm. At what point does that mindset become a justification for just eating shit when you know you shouldn't be eating shit? I deserve it. I earned it.
Yeah. I mean, I think when it becomes more 25%, 30%, 45%, 50%, I think that's when that, starts to go right. If it is most of the time you're eating really great and you have a day where you give yourself, to eat whatever you want to eat, then you're fine. But it can't become 25, 30, 45, 50%, it has to stay at that 80-20. It has to, you have to keep yourself, you have to hold yourself accountable. You can't allow it to be like, oh no, I'm good now. I worked out once this week. So it becomes the 80-20, the opposite way. Right.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's discipline though. Like it requires anything good that you want requires discipline. And the more you want something, the more discipline it requires.
Exactly. Discipline and accountability. It's the two things that people need more of. Everyone needs more of.
Yes. Love it. Let's transition a little bit into entrepreneurship. So, I mean, you're an Xendurance athlete. We're affiliated with Xendurance. A bunch of, the audience are, are business builders with Xendurance. So, they can relate to the entrepreneurship part. Before we dive deeper into entrepreneurship, I'm curious why. I mean, I can only imagine that when you're like an athlete at your caliber, like companies are probably approaching you, like wanting to sponsor you. Like, why Xendurance?
Yeah, so Xendurance was one of my first sponsors. I met Jason years ago. I think it was 2012 or 2013. And I actually was I was skeptical at first, right? It was the extreme endurance product, the lactic acid buffer, and they're like, "Oh, this stuff works." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure it does." This, along with everything else that is out there, works. And so I didn't sign with them right away. I go, "Give me the pills. Let me try them, and I'll be the judge of this, kind of thing. Let me see if it actually works." And so I didn't sign with them for 4 months. I took the pills for a month or a month and a half, and then I stopped taking them for a month and a half, and then I started taking them again. I was like, let me see this, if it's, if it's just in my head or if it's real. And so, yeah, I noticed the difference, a pretty big difference when I stopped taking them after I stopped taking them. So that was for me, that was like, okay, this company's like, they're doing good things. They're not just out there trying to make a buck. And so, yeah, extreme endurance.
What did you notice when you stopped taking?
I noticed that like my muscles weren't recovering as fast. I noticed that I would get tired. My muscles would kind of get burned out a little bit quicker while I was in workouts. Just little things, right? Little subtle things. And so it was interesting. It was really cool to see and to actually see and feel that something was working, and you're not just being told it's going to work, and you take it and you don't really know.
How did the creatine get named after you? I'm curious.
Well, that was just a product. They were like, hey, we want to make a creatine product, and we want to, have it be like a Josh Bridges line. And so that was, I've been taking creatine, and they wanted to make the product. And so they made it, and they, made sure that it was the best ingredients, the 100% Creapure. We tested flavors, and like I just, I think they appreciated me as an athlete, and it was something that I wanted on their line of products. And so, we came together and we made the product, and it was awesome. I love it. I, take it every day.
So do we. Who else takes the creatine?
PTJB. That's right.
I know there's some of you in here.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about your competitive edge, giving you like an advantage in business. I mean, for one, do you feel like it does? And if so, what is the advantage that you get with having a competitive edge going into business?
Yeah, I think having wanting to be a competitor in business, and as in anything, is going to help, right? Because if you're not competitive, then you might just be like okay with, oh, we're selling stuff, it's okay. Where I want to be the best coffee company in the world, and and I want to help other people, and take what I get from that and like help other things, right? I don't want to it's not just about making money. It's about growing a great business and a great brand, and building relationships, and helping build up communities and things like that. So it's really cool. It's being an entrepreneur is not something I ever really thought I'd want to do. The coffee company just kind of came, and I feel like that's how my whole life has been, though. It's not like anything I've ever been like, I want to go be a Navy SEAL. Like a lot of guys that I met, they wanted to be Navy SEAL since they were little kids. I thought my athletic days were behind me, and then CrossFit kind of came out of nowhere and became a sport. And it was like, oh, but being a professional athlete was something that I did actually always want to be, but I just thought my career was like in sports was over. And then it was like, boom, nope, it's, here it is. And so it came out of nowhere. And then the business world, the coffee was kind of the same way. And so, just taking that same mindset though, of like, I want to be the best at it. I want to be, the best coffee company in the world, and other stuff too. So, I think it's going to help. I think it's going to help just motivate you. And every day you're going to get up and try to figure out how to be better and how to make your company better.
Love that. Love that so much. And, for those look, Good Dude's coffee is an exceptional coffee. It really is. And I can attest to it. And you guys should definitely check it out. To try some Good Dude's coffee, just go to Good.
Well, you're struggling with good today.
Hey, it's early. It's early.
This is how we're going to spell it. GOOOOO.
GoodDudesCoffee.com. It's really simple.
Yeah. What's your favorite one?
What's the one with the blue in the back?
Oh, that's Reagan. The Reagan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What's your favorite?
I like the patent. We're actually sold out of it right now. That's how good it is. But it'll be back next week. And then the patent, the Reagan's my number 2, and then the Roosevelt is my number 3. But they're all good. And you know what? Every
one, right?
What's that?
Roosevelt is the yellow one.
Green. It's like a green. But they're all good, and they all have, like, everyone has different tastes for coffee. We have light to dark roast, and so yeah, like whatever kind of coffee you like to drink, we have something for you for sure.
Yeah,
they're all single origin coffees, no blends. I just find single origin coffees to be the taste a little bit better. You're gonna get some better notes out of them. Get a more even cup of coffee. So
yeah, highly agree. You guys, like, for all of you coffee drinkers, definitely go ahead and check out Good Dudes Coffee. Josh, I mean, it's been such an honor and pleasure. We know that you're up to, like, so many great things. I mean, you have a boxing match next month.
September, yeah.
And how is that going?
It's coming along. It's getting, it's not again. It's like I said, the rest of my life, it's come out of nowhere. I literally, again, something that I wanted to start. I've always thought I wanted to box or learn how to box, not really actually getting to boxing matches or compete in it. But I started going into the gym, and then Cooper was like, "Hey, we're gonna get you on a card." And I'm like, "Shut up, dude." And then and here we are. And now I'm training for it professionally, right? Everything you do, you go and you're gonna go pro at it. So I'm not going pro. I'm gonna fight in an exhibition fight, but I'm training hard, and it's fun. I'm learning something new every day, and it's just different. It's not lifting weights. It's learning body awareness, movement, reacting. It's really cool. It's really fun. It's a really fun sport, and I have so much more appreciation for the guys that are doing this professionally and at the top of the game, because it is a skill for sure.
Is it fun still when you get punched in the face?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you like that kind of fun.
I think about surfing. I'm like, yeah, it's still fun. I just keep falling. I'm like, but somehow it's still fun.
This is so much fun. It's so much fun. Yeah, it is. It's like, because you're learning, and there's no better teacher than pain. So, yeah, it helps learn when you get punched in the face. Hey, move your face, and it won't get punched, or block it.
Yeah, it's like life. What did we learn from this?
What did we learn? We got punched in the face. Now we need to move quicker, be faster.
I love it. Josh Bridges, thank you so much for your time today. We know you have a training session to go attend. And thank you guys for joining us. Definitely go ahead and check out Josh's coffee. And Josh, we'll stay in touch. Really appreciate you.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. My pleasure is all mine. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for being such a good dude.
There it is.
There it is. All right, you guys, have yourselves a beautiful Friday. We'll catch you next week. Josh, we'll catch you on the flip side. Thanks for joining us today, you guys. Bye.